He is the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be. Bret, the Hitman Hart, the excellence of execution. A multi-time world champion, Man Hart, the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be. Early life and wrestling roots. Bret was born into a wrestling dynasty. Well, my parents had 8 boys and 4 girls. All 8 boys got into wrestling, and all 4 girls married wrestlers, Bret shared. Growing up in a big family with financial struggles was tough. From the moment he was born, Bret longed for recognition. He wanted to do something remarkable. But his father, Stu Hart's, pride had to be earned. Stu, the patriarch of the Hart family, operated Stampede Wrestling, a promotion based in Calgary. Lend me your ears and your eyes, for here cometh Stampede Wrestling. Sunday dinners at the Hart House were attended by wrestlers and their families. The house became a hub for training and preparing for shows. We couldn't be into it any more deeply than we were. Wrestling was everything for our family. We sacrificed everything for it. However, it wasn't all fun and games. Bret and his brothers learned early what it took to make it in the business. The basement of the Hart House became legendary, the dungeon. Stu's personal playground. You'd hear guys screaming for their lives down there, one sister recounted. My dad would say, "Have some discipline." You could hear it through the living room floor. Stu's expectations were clear. One by one, Bret's brothers trained in the dungeon. "I'm confident. I've been training hard and want to make my family proud," Bret once said as he began his journey. At 13, Bret won a medal in amateur wrestling. "I was so excited. I remember holding out the medal for him," he shared. For Bret, it was a turning point. By proving himself in wrestling, he earned his father's approval. From his early days with his father, Bret developed the sharpshooter, his iconic finishing move. He also learned life lessons that shaped him as a man. Something far more important than the favor of Vince McMahon is Bret Hart's knack for storytelling, which is basically unparalleled. I think Bret isn't just in a class by himself. Just 2 months later, Bret Hart beat Ric Flair to become the WWF World Heavyweight Champion. Unbelievable. Congratulations. All of those dreams, all of that hard work have paid off. Your wishes, your dreams have now come to fruition. I'll tell you right now how proud I am of this moment. This is the greatest moment of my whole life, and I dedicate it to all the people who believe that the biggest dreams can still come true. This is kind of interesting. You were the most famous Albertan in the world. Do you think I ended up maybe being the most famous Canadian in the world too? From the very beginning, I had to claw my way to the top. I had to fight to come out of the wrestling profession someday as a success, rather than a wrestling tragedy, which is what so many others turn out to be. Once holding the title, Bret felt like he got what he deserved, but not in the way he wanted. He was upset at Ric Flair, who was having health issues at the time, for not being at 100% and not putting in as much effort as Bret did. You know what? Rick did the same thing every night. He still screwed up lots of stuff. "We never quite did it my way," Bret said. There were also suspicions that Bret was only chosen to be champion because of the WWF steroid scandal of the early 90s. Dr. George Zahorian, a ringside physician, had been supplying steroids to wrestlers in the locker room in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Next Monday, a doctor will go on trial charged with prescribing anabolic steroids to several professional wrestlers. Dr. George Zahorian has been indicted by a federal grand jury on 15 counts of distributing muscle-building steroids. This drew significant attention to the company. Almost every wrestler was using them at the time, except Bret Hart. The Hitman had a reputation as an honest and principled man, a Canadian hero. He was seen as health-conscious and drug-free in front of the cameras as well as behind the scenes, so he would make the perfect champion to represent the company. Bret Hart's not going to get busted with an underage girl in a hotel, or we won't find a kilo of cocaine in his bag. When you see this symbol, you can be assured of drug-free sports entertainment that you and your entire family can be proud of. But Bret says he doesn't qualify as straight edge because he did use steroids. The Hitman stands for sticking up for yourself and never quitting. "The one thing I won't do is lie to my fans," he said in his autobiography. He revealed that he only used steroids once in a foreign country, likely Japan or England, with either Jim Neidhart or Dynamite Kid, who injected him. On other occasions, however, he stated that he used steroids destructively to recover muscle mass after a knee injury. In a radio interview, he even credited steroids with saving his career at one point. If you go back and you look at all the facts, my story's never changed. It's always been the same story right from day one, because I tell the truth. After his title win, Bret had a few more matches against Flair, but for some reason, something always went wrong. Somebody told me he was having some problems at home or something like that, and he was distracted. Maybe that's the case. But I remember actually going to Vince and saying, I think he's sabotaging the matches, trying to sabotage mine. We kept screwing up the finish and stuff like that. It felt like we were doing the worst endings to our matches, bungling up the finish all the time, or something went wrong. Ric Flair was going to leave the WWF to go to the rival company WCW. Bret speculated that Flair acted this way because he had nothing to lose. Perhaps by going to Vince McMahon about his suspicions, Bret Hart sowed the seeds of distrust that would later lead to the infamous Montreal Screwjob. As Bret Hart rose through the ranks of the WWF, his personality began to change. We're getting reports back that we've got a megastar on our hands in the form of Bret Hart. The girls were just like showing themselves at Bret. It was like a big movie premiere, but this was way over the top, unlike anything I'd ever seen. His work had made him a megastar. That was all they wanted to see. That was all they wanted to talk about. Over the years, Vince had a good relationship with Bret. Bret had convinced him and everyone else that he was the best. His success was not based on his height or physical appearance. He succeeded because of his in-ring ability. The validation of being world champion, which was more than just an empty title to him, went to his head. He gained a reputation for being uncompromising. I didn't get much of my stuff in. It was Bret's match. We did what Bret wanted to do. If I'd had more experience, it would have been a different match, said one wrestler. Some wrestlers describe Bret as self-centered. He was overly focused on his own importance within the industry and very proud of his achievements. This, combined with his catchphrase, earned him a reputation as his own biggest fan. People actually believe that Shawn Michaels is the best wrestler in the whole world. Wrestling Federation, like he's the top one, better than I am. And that just drives me nuts. Just drives me nuts. But at least Vince believed in him. In Bret's mind, he and Vince shared a mutual respect for each other. Little did he know that this was not how his boss felt about him. In an interview with Michael Landsberg, Vince McMahon talked about some wrestlers not knowing their place in his company. Individual performers can be confused, and sometimes their ego gets the best of them. More often than not, that does not happen. It happens on occasion, but I think that, well, no question about it.